Nick Chubb's season and maybe his career are over with week 2 wrap-ups for both the redraft and the APFL leagues for you. And we made a big boo-boo in the redraft scoring. All of this and more in 20 seconds. Hey, fellow fanatics, welcome to the Fanatically Real broadcast, sponsored by Nature Coast Tailgating and Apparel, the official apparel of the FSA. I see 5 people out there already. Everybody's starting to find out that this is the place to be on Wednesday nights. If you're out there, say hello to me. That way I can throw some comments up on the screen from you. So we don't have any cool buttons for you this week. We decided to step up our graphics game in other places and try to make it a little less confusing for everybody. So the redraft graphics have definitely had a step up, and we will be getting to those shortly. But here's what's on the agenda for this tonight. We're going to do the NFL news. We're going to do the redraft games of the week and the standings following each one of the regions, highlights. We're going to do the redraft power rankings. Then we're going to do games of the week in the APFL power rankings, and then get to any of the other miscellaneous stuff that we're going to talk about tonight, including the big boo-boo that we made in the redraft scoring. So Anthony Ferguson out there with us. Hey, what's going on, brother? See, 2 more people jumped on with us. If you are out there, make sure that you come on and say hello. So NFL news to start off with, and my thing is saying that my signal's going a little weak, so let me know if y'all can still hear me but don't see me. That's okay if you can't see me. NFL news, not shocking news or news that we haven't already heard, but definitely the biggest news of the week was Nick Chubb going down for the year. And it looked like it was possibly a career-ending injury, that knee that ended up getting what looked like dislocated and possibly some ligaments or tendons at least torn in that knee and leg area with the same knee that had to be worked on when he was at University of Georgia. So he is definitely going to miss the year, and we'll have to see what the rest of it looks like for him after this. Matt on with us as well. Cam Akers is here. Bruce on with us. Says, hide your wife. Yeah, the Nick Chubb thing definitely breaks my heart as well. I wasn't paying attention to the TV when it all happened. I don't know what just happened to my screen. Wasn't paying attention. I saw all of you guys' texts come across on Discord saying that you could hear the screaming over the TV. I saw a still of it afterwards, and I'm glad I did not see it live, and I'm glad that I did not watch the video after that either. OVC out there with us as well. I'm glad you're here. We got a little stuff to say about you tonight. Yeah, I'm glad. That's one of the biggest things that bothers me probably more than anything is dislocations. And it was enough to see the still to not have to watch the video. So in response to Chubb going down, the Browns signed Kareem Hunt today to a 1-year contract. Gerard out there with us as well. Yo, what's up, man? And then Cam Akers, as Eric says out there, Cam Akers is here. Hide your wife. So apparently there's a rumor going around that just got published on Discord a little bit ago that the reason that Cam Akers got traded to Minnesota was because he must have said some off-color comment about wanting to do something to head coach Sean McVay's wife. Apparently that was the same thing that the quarterback that ended up getting traded, and for whatever reason, I can't think of his name right now, said something similar, and which is why he's playing in Detroit right now. So, and the response to Cam Akers was, grow up. You need to trade the whole team because everybody wants to. And that's probably as PG-13 as we've ever got on this show. So let's talk about the redraft games of the week, and let me get these awesome new graphics up for you all. First one up, we've got the Banshee. So the margin of victory game of the week belongs to the Ottawa Valley Coffee Espresso Man. OVC, you're out there. And the Koala. So the Espresso Man get the win by 1.24 points with a final score of 189.76 to 188.52. However, this was not the case before the stats correction, which we're going to talk about a little bit later in this show. Banshee standings as they are right now. The OVC Espressmen now at 2-0. And I had to reorder, so you're going to see something that looks a little bit different probably in the standings if you're looking at them on the website right now, or if you go to the website and look at them. Bruce says he's about to Goff. There you go. Thanks, Eric. It was Goff. I don't know why I couldn't think of his name as the quarterback that got moved over to Detroit. And then Bruce said he's about to go Google his wife. I did. She's attractive, definitely. Yeah, the scores were crazy this week. And, like I said, it wouldn't have been that way had we not done the stats correction. That game would have gone the other way. The Koalas actually would have won that game had we not done the stats correction. We'll talk about the stats correction here in a little bit. But anyways, the standings have been redone on the MFL website. When I went in and looked at it on the other day while I was trying to fix as much as I could of everything else that was going on, JB's out there with us as well. JB, what's up, man? I realized that the stats were being ordered by by win-loss record and then head-to-head, which doesn't really mean much to us in the redraft league, especially since we said tiebreakers are going to be head-to-head, we're going to be win-loss records and then total points. So I reorganized the standings to be win-loss record and then total points. So if it looked like people jumped around a whole lot, that's why. What you're seeing on the screen right now reflects that, which is the win-loss and then total points. Let's move on to the Black Dragons region. Game highlight in the Black Dragons region is the Rum Runners putting the beating on the Dragons. The Rum Runners had the highest point total of the week at 206.7. Here's your standings right now. With that win by the Rum Runners, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit, ends up making him 1-1. Until the stats correction, he was 2-0. He's going to be one of those casualties that we talk about here in a little bit. Let's go back over here to the comments and see. I heard that Brady is going to the Jets. Wouldn't that be funny? Kind of following the same footsteps that Favre did, and then after that he goes to Minnesota. All right, so in the Gold Dragons region, close game here. Came down to a touchdown by IDP player. And that's what gave the loss to the Unicorn Legends. Eric Slatkin ends up getting that win, 189-185. Let me know what you think about these new graphics this week. I'm probably going to hang onto these for the redraft for a couple of weeks until you guys tell me you want to see something else. But tell me what you think of them. Much better than us having no graphics for you all last week. Here's the current regional standings. Eric's out there with us. Hopefully he's still out there, sitting at top of the leaderboard at 2-0 right now. A little bit more points than the Monarchs, which is why he sits on top of the New York Jackets, sitting right behind them in the third spot. Thank you. Appreciate that, brother. And then let's see what else we got out there. Let's go move over to the Hydras. The second and third top scoring teams of the week come from this region. That's where Mantis Mayhem scored 206 en route to beating the Nihilist. And then the Creek Browns won by 24 over the Garbage Points. Final score there was 204-180. Here's what your Hydras standings look like right now. And I could be wrong, but I do believe the Creek Browns were a complete auto draft team. And the team that was leading the power rankings last week came from this region as well. The Cavalry was also an auto-drafted team. So there's something to be said about this auto-drafting. Maybe it's not as bad as we think it is, other than the year that Andrew Luck got picked for everybody. All right, to the Scorpions, the margin of victory game in the Scorpions took place between the Horny Toads and Lucky-Ass Ferg. I know Ferg is out there right now. Horny Toads get the win by 2.92 points. Final score there was 180.92 to 178 even. Here is your standings right now in the Scorpions region. Now, you're going to see something that looks a little bit funny here in the Scorpions region. You're going to see a tie between the Panthers and the Coolidge Scorpions. That is absolutely accurate, and we're still going to talk about it a little bit later on as we talk about the stats correction. And the links in our final region we're going to talk about for the night, the margin of victory game was between Jason Trumbley and the Bad Omens. Jason gets the win by 1.54 points. Final score there was 157.5 to 155.96. Here are your standings as they are right now for the links. All right, let's move on to the power rankings for the redraft. Top 25, the Banshees take over the number one spot. OVC Espresso Man still out there. You have become the number one team in the power rankings. Never trust a Browns quarterback. Yeah, especially they can't seem to get it right this year. So there might be some truth to that. So some people might be asking, how are we calculating these power rankings? Because we've done a couple of different things over the years. I want to make sure that everybody understands what we're doing this year for the power rankings. Power rankings is very simple this year. We're just taking the number of wins that your team has and multiplying it by your all-play record. Now, there are some teams that still haven't got wins, but you never want to multiply anything by 0, so you're still multiplying it by 1. So anybody who's got 0 wins or 1 win is getting multiplied by 1. Anybody who's got 2 wins is being multiplied by 2. Let me know if you want to see what that math looks like and what the actual numbers are. I could figure out a way to add that to this graphic, maybe on the sides here where we've got the black area. One of the things that I thought about doing for the next week was putting some kind of graphic on here to show what the team's positions were the week before, so we can see how much they've moved up or moved down, and then find out who the new teams are that are moving on to the rankings. Before we move over to the APFL games of the week, we were able to get MFL to kind of come online and give us what we were looking for last week, which was the game of the week across all of the regions in the redraft. And according to MFL, that is going to be between the Panthers and Brian Ware in the Scorpions region. Panthers right now with the current lineup is projected to win 160 to 148. So let's move on to the APFL games of the week. We don't have like a real close game anywhere in any of these 16 games to highlight. So we're going to go through them real quick because I want to make sure they get to due diligence. So we are going to start out in the AFC North. Dogs end up getting the win over the Forge, 117 to 87. And then the other pairing in the AFC North, Cats get the win 104 to 96. Right now, the Dogs are leading the North at 2-0. The Blackbirds are at the bottom at 0-2, and both the Cats and the Forge are at 1-1. Going to move over to the NFC North. In this game, the Monsters get the win 112 to 97. And in the other game, Minnesota gets the win 122 to 110. Right now, Minnesota is leading the NFC North at 2-0. Detroit Pride at 0-2, and then the Cheeseheads and Monsters both at 1-1. Moving over to the AFC East, got the Wings beating the Barracudas 123 to 118, and then the Rebels laying a smackdown down on the Mafia 130 to 77. And in this division, and this division only in all of the APFL, all teams are 1-1. Moving to the NFC East, the Harpies beat the Desperados 87 to 57. And in the other pairing, the Hogs beat the Mammoths 96 to 51. Harpies holding on to a 2-0 in that division, and the Mammoths at 0-2 with Desperados and Hogs both at 1-1. Moving to the AFC South, we've got the Toros beating the Stallions at 94 to 65. In the other matchup there, the Spartans beating the Wildcats 92 to 53. Toros now 2-0. Stallions 0-2 with Tennessee and Jacksonville both at 1-1. To the NFC South, the Pirates put a beating on the Dirty Birds. Final score there was 108 to 97. And in the other matchup, we have the Angels beating the Power Claws 98 to 81. Angels got a 2-0 record right now. Dirty Birds 0-2. Panthers and the Pirates both at 1-1. Moving out to the two West divisions, the Marauders beat the Arrowheads 98 to 85. And in the other matchup, the Mustangs beat the Warhorse 119 to 98. Mustangs currently 2-0. The Arrowheads 0-2. And the Marauders and Warhorse both 1-1. And in our final two matchups in the NFC West, we got the Bighorns beating the Miners 104 to 78. And in the other side, it is the Raptors losing to the Redbirds 102 to 106. Redbirds are currently sitting 2-0. The Miners at 0-2. And then Seattle, which is last year's world champion, and the LA Bighorns, both at 1-1. Here are your power rankings. For the APFL, Cleveland Dogs stay at the top. And the way we calculate these is the same way that we do it with the redraft. It is going to be the number of wins times your all-play record. The Dogs stretched their lead a little bit this week, moving up to 0.16 points. I say that right, 0.160 points lead over. I'm guessing that was in reaction to you winning this week, Matt, with the Pirates getting their win. I'm surprised you didn't talk more trash on Discord than you have so far between you two. Here are the upcoming games in the APFL. Bringing these up this week because the big thing here is, get my picture out of the way, we are finally moving out of in-division games. We're still staying in conference, though, because this is the strength of schedule part of our schedule. So this is where you are playing teams that finish in the same spot in the other divisions this upcoming week. The game of the week, supposedly according to MFL, is the New York Wings versus the Houston Toros. That right with the current lineups right now. When I last checked, it had the New York Wings winning 90-77. But I think the last time I checked it before I made any edits to the script, that might be a flipped score now. I think I'm not sure what happened to the Wings predicted score and what happened to the Toros, but I think that's the other way around now. And then on the NFC side, here's what we've got as far as the strength of schedule games. And that is it for the graphics for the week. Hope you all liked. Dirty Birds are delicate. Doubleheader, me versus the commission. Do I have you in both leagues this week? Do I got you in the redraft as well? Maybe it was the redraft that I was thinking of, which made me think when I saw Houston Toros, I thought of you, and maybe I was thinking about the scoring that's over in the redraft. So maybe you got the advantage in the redraft, and maybe I've got the advantage in APFL. So cool, doubleheader with you and I this week. Yep, okay, very cool. That'll be fun. I'll make sure we talk some trash to each other on Sunday. Finkel's logo is still one of the best ever. I appreciate that. The time that went into that logo as well, because that was one of the very first ones we used AI to create from scratch. I really liked how it turned out. Took it into Photoshop and did a couple little changes to it with the words, which we don't see the graphics here. But yeah, I was pretty happy with the way that one turned out. All right, so we said at the top of the show, here's where we're getting into the miscellaneous part of the show. So there's still good information to be put out, so I don't want anybody to go anywhere, especially this next part that we're talking about with the boo-boo that we made. So I'm watching the game on Monday night, and I'm playing against a guy who had Pat Freiermuth, which is the tight end for Pittsburgh Steelers. And there was a tackle on the offensive side of the ball. There was a forced fumble. There was 2 yards of catching on one reception. And his points just weren't coming upright. I thought, well, it's MFL. Sometimes it takes a while for that to catch up, right? We all know this about MFL. Sometimes it's a little bit delayed. So I said, you know what? I'll go to bed. I'll look at it in the morning. Got up the next morning, and there was no correction. It was still 1.2 points off, and I couldn't figure out why. And that would have been the tackle, and then that would have been the 2 yards that he got for the one reception. So I went into panic mode right after that, and I thought, what is causing this issue? And I went and looked at the scoring settings on MFL. And what we put in the rules on the MFL page was the way we intended the rules to be on MFL, but didn't get translated over. So the things that were missing that I discovered when I went into panic mode were the quarterback was only getting 1 point for every 25 yards passing. There were no decimal points. Running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends were getting 1 point for every 10 yards. They weren't getting 0.1 for every yard. So there was no decimal points happening there either. And also, the tackles were not being assigned on the offensive side of the ball. So if there's a turnover and all of a sudden the offense now becomes the defense, there are going to be times where the offensive players are getting tackles as well, and those weren't being calculated in there either. So I let it be known in a short video, 6-7 minutes the other day, Tuesday, I think it was. I sat down with Matt Kroll and talked to him. Matt, thank you for talking me off the ledge. Gave me great advice of how we were supposed to skin this cat. He said, make sure you get it out there sooner than later, especially just before the waiver wire moves, so everybody knows what's going on. That way, if somebody needs to move around some of their players, they can. And just be completely transparent about it. We're playing for money. We don't want this to be found out later on in the season. I didn't want to just willy-nilly change the scoring rules and somebody goes, what the heck is going on? Especially since every time that I did change the scoring rules, MFL was sending out an update to the scores from week 1 and week 2. And it did take me a while to figure it all out. I will tell you from a commissioner standpoint, even with as much as you can do with the MFL, it is cumbersome and sometimes it is difficult to do. When we go through places like Yahoo and NFL, you have like a finite number of rules that you can use for scoring. And there's a finite number in MFL as well, but MFL has like 137 scoring categories. And some of them can be combined on offense and defense and all kinds of crazy stuff. So all of that for me to just be honest and transparent with everybody, and we screwed up. So Matt's infinite wisdom, and he was right. What we needed to do was make sure we fixed it and let everybody know that it could affect outcomes of the games from week 1 and week 2, because we were able to retroactively change the scores there, and then it will be correct moving on from week 3 and forward. And it did affect 3 games. We talked about the one already this week between the Espresso Man and who'd you end up playing? I forget who it was that you played. So I think it was the Koalas. The Koalas originally had the win there. And then when we did the updates to the scoring, ended up changing the scoring around, and OVC Espresso Men ended up getting the win. There was a change in the Black Dragons region during week 1. It was between Carolina Nation and the Rum Runners. Originally, the Rum Runners were supposed to win that game 118-116, and I said something about that. While Rusty, the general manager of the Rum Runners, went to 1-1 instead of being 2-0, because the scoring change ended up changing the margin of victory in favor of Carolina Nation by 0.74 points. Final score ended up being 122.36 to 121.62. So that was a change. And then the craziest one happened in the Scorpions region, which is why I said, remember this when we get to this part of the show about the ties in the standings between these two teams. So originally, the Coolidge Scorpions got the win by exactly 1 point over the Panthers. But when we fixed the scoring, they ended up tying with 127.36 points. Now, we have said for years, once we had our first tie, especially when we went to decimal points, that we were not going to use any criteria to break ties. Ties are going to be ties. Because what are the chances of a lineup of 15 different players with 2 decimal points out to the 100th of a decimal, the 100th of a point? What are the chances that there's going to be a tie? And it happened. And if 2 other teams had played this week in, I think it was the Great Lakes region, there would have been a tie there as well, because 2 teams scored exactly the same amount of points. However, they didn't play against each other. So the tie is a tie for those that were wondering. And for those 2 teams that it affected, that's why your record is now 1-0-1 or 0-1-1. So that's it. That's all I wanted to talk about our scoring boo-boo. Please come up online if you have a problem with any of that, or if you have any questions about it. I'm glad we caught it. Matt, again, thank you for walking me off the ledge or talking me off the ledge as we were doing that, because I was having a freak out moment. I wasn't really sure how we were going to do it, but I knew I wanted to make it right, because I'm a huge stickler of making sure that whatever our rules say, we go with. So I got asked on Discord in a PM by Paul Hare, who is the general manager of the Rochester Rabbits. And Paul, I'm sorry if I'm putting your business out there, but I want everybody to know that this was a very valid question. This isn't me like throwing you under the bus or anything like that, because a lot of other people are probably wondering the same thing. And this is one of those MFL isms that isn't really as easy to understand as probably some of the other leagues that we played in, like Yahoo and NFL.com. And JB, I appreciate that. Yeah, it is wild that we had a tie. and then they need to go out and buy the Powerball, especially with as high as it's getting right now. So Paul's question was, how do the rounds in the waiver wire process work on MFL? And I was honest with him. I said, I've never quite understood the way MFL does it. What I will say is, as I was talking it out loud or texting it to him, it started to make a little bit more sense to me. So here's how this works. Let's say you put 5 moves in. We'll go with 4. Let's go with 4 moves, all right? Let's say you put 4 moves in, and you've got them all in there, and you've got them in order. What MFL will go off of is it will go from the top of your list to the second one on your list, to the third one on your list, to the fourth one on your list. So it will go in that order. What happens is let's say the first guy that you have on your list is taken ahead of you. Then you will get the second guy on your list when it comes your turn if nobody else takes them. But then the third and the fourth people that are on your list, you're not going to get unless you add them to additional rounds. Now, you've probably seen that as you're doing a waiver wire process, and you'll see it say add to round whatever, add to round whatever. Here's the best advice I can give you. Let's go back to the same example of the 4 people. If you have 4 people on your waiver wire, put them in the order that you want to get them in, and then copy that over for the number of rounds for the number of players that you have. So in this instant, copy it to round 2, round 3, round 4, same players. As your players are being taken from each one of those spots, it'll move to your next person, and you'll be able to pick them up. Because if you only do it in round 1 and your first player is taken and you get your second player, once that round is over, it will not come back to you for the third and fourth spot, because the rounds look like this. It will go from waiver wire position 1 to waiver wire position 12. As you make that move, you move down the list, and once it hits 12, it considers the next time it hits the top team as the next round. So as you're putting your waiver wire moves in, and this is probably something we should have explained before the season started, because now here we are 3 weeks in, and it's not as easy to understand if you don't think about it that way, but that is the way you got to handle it. If you have, but you can't do that on the MFL app. I don't know if you can do that or not. Ottawa is saying that you can. I don't ever do waiver wire moves on the app itself. I do add and drops, but that is about as deep as I will go. He says he did it this week, but it's tricky. And DJ's out there and he says, aha, so maybe that's also something that could be affecting. And this is DJ's second year playing with us as well. So as a second year guy, light bulb probably just went on for him as well. So if you're sitting there wondering why you're not getting some of your players, that's why you have to copy it to each one of the rounds. And again, I tell everybody, don't use the app as the end all be all. It is a third-party app. It is not sanctioned by the MFL. You can, in fact, use the website on your phone, but it is a very small screen to look at, and there's a lot that can be done on MFL. Sit down at your computer if you've got one. That's the best advice I can give you. And then use your app for things on the go. Like if you're checking scores, if you need to do a quick ad drop like I did this week, I ended up having to drop a defensive player that I found out that wasn't going to play for me and did a quick ad. And I'm so glad I did. I think that guy ended up getting me like 11.5 points, which is why I got the win this week. Matt says, I always approach it with a mindset that use each round per player you want to drop for a pickup. Yeah, absolutely. That's probably the best way to look at it. It's just so funny that it doesn't already separate. Like if you have the 4 players, round 1, round 2, round 3, round 4. But I understand why it doesn't do it, because you're trying to get your best player in that first round. And if you don't get your number 1 option, you get your number 2 option. But if you don't copy it into the following rounds, you're not going to get your 3 and you're not going to get your number 4 option. So make sure you do that. Number of players that you're trying to make a move for that week, copy it that number of rounds. All right, primetime results from this past week. We are not playing the spread this year. We're playing straight up. We went 4-0 this week, making us 5-2 for the season. Let's talk about this week's primetime games. And shocking to me, because I did not know this, and I should, we have 2 Monday night games again this week in week 3, but let's talk about Thursday night first. Thursday night, San Francisco at New York Giants. San Francisco as of this afternoon. Point spread favored by 10. I got to go with that. That's too big of a point spread. Giants are playing like trash lately. Sorry, Gerard, if you're still out there watching this. I know you're a fan. Let's put the San Francisco hat on. And I got the fun one out this week to make sure that we had something good to wear for the show. Sunday night football, we got Pittsburgh in another primetime game. They're playing the Raiders. Raiders are favored by 2.5 right now. I will take the Raiders all day in that matchup. I knew you were out there still watching. And then in our two Monday night games, so the first one is Philadelphia at Tampa Bay. That one is starting at 7:15. Philadelphia is favored by 5. I'll take Philly. And in the rematch of Super Bowl 56, we got LA Rams at Cincinnati. That's the 8:15 game. Cincinnati by 2.5. I cannot see Cincinnati going 0-3. Pretty sure it's 0-3. I know they've been sucking. And I'm surprised, honestly, that Cincinnati is favored by 2.5, but I'm still going to take them even with that surprise. All right. Been asked by quite a few people as well, the new people saying, hey, are you still working on my logo? Yes, in fact, I am. It's just been a really weird last 3 weeks, last month between surgery and having to do the turn and burn to go home to Ohio this weekend. So I've got nothing that I need to do on TikTok. I've got nothing that I really need to do for the league until we get back to the show on Wednesday. So I am locked in tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Y'all got me for 6 days to work on nothing but logos. My last count was we still got 17 logos we need to get done. 3 or 4 of those have already had some versions of them sent to the general manager. So we'll continue working through those so we can get those done. For those that are wondering why your logo didn't show up on the slides tonight, I haven't got anything moved over to MFL for the ones that maybe have said yes to it. I said I was going to. That's happening tomorrow. So logos. If you're still in need of one, make sure you reach out to me and we'll get them done for you. Next broadcast will be next week, the 27th of September, 8:30 p.m. East Coast time, just like normal. We will do our week 3 wrap-up show. I think I'm going to do the graphics slightly different for the APFL next week. So get ready for that. We'll take up a little bit less space on the number of slides that we have. It'll be good. So make sure you're here for that. So thanks to all of our sponsors. Thank you to the Mondo and the boys from the Recast, the official music of FSA. And thank you to Brandon from Lincoln from Nature Coast Tailgating and Apparel. Nature Coast Tailgating and Apparel for reaching out to me today. I can't wait to see the shipment that he's got coming to me. That way I can wear it on the show and you guys get to see this awesome stuff that he is doing for us apparel-wise. And as soon as you all see it on the show, I just know that business will start booming for him. If you want to know more about all of that, hit us up sooner than later. Hit us up before we're wearing it on the show once it comes in the mail, and then we'll get you hooked up with him. Thank you for watching tonight's show. If you're not already subscribed to us here on YouTube, make sure that you do that so you don't miss next week's broadcast. Put an alert on so it'll let you know that we're getting ready to go live. Follow us on all of the things. We haven't been using Instagram or Twitter very much lately because we have found a new love and a new fan base over on TikTok. Business is booming over there. We've got 5 times the number of followers over on TikTok than we've had on any other social media platform that we've been working on for years, and we've only been on TikTok for 2 months now. And plus, I'm putting out some really fun and great art over there. So make sure you go out and check that out. Tomorrow will be our first non-football related TikTok post. We put out a couple of posts this past weekend that had to deal with NFL muscle cars. Might want to go take a peek at that. That one did really well. I think it got up to like 71,000 views on it now. We've got the NFL toys. We've got the NCAA toys, all based on football conferences inside the NCAA. And there's a couple of things. Tomorrow will be the first non-football post we've ever done. If you are a Marvel or a DC fan, the next 3 days are the days that you want to watch or take a look at TikTok. Don't forget to set your lineups. Remember, we are Fanatically Real. You all have a good night, and we will see you next week.